So here's another thing, and it may not be possible because I've never seen any repricer yet that is able to reprice the business buy box.
Business pricing is something that actually, as of this week, it's available on the platform.
Oh,
we did what we call a soft launch.
Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs, to the Entrepreneur Adventure Podcast, where we talk about Amazon wholesale and how you can use it to build an e-commerce empire, a side hustle, or anything in between. And now, your host, Todd Welch.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 45 of the Entrepreneur Adventure Podcast. And today, we are diving into repricing on Amazon. I've got on Ian from sellersnap.io, which is the repricer that I have switched to and a lot of other big Amazon sellers are switching to because they have this thing called AI repricing or artificial intelligence repricing, which goes a step above and beyond a lot of their competition. And we really dive in today tips and tricks and tactics that you can do with repricing and also why you should have repricing as an Amazon seller. So really good episode, a lot of really great information. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. Listen to this. You're going to pick up some tips and tricks if you already have a repricer. And then if you're not sure what a repricer is or why you would want a repricer for selling on Amazon, definitely going to want to stay tuned because we dive into that world as well. And for anyone interested in switching over to SellerSnap or starting to try out SellerSnap, I've secured a 30% off discount for your first month. Just head on over to entrepreneuradventure.com/snap, S-N-A-P. You can get that. And you can also pick up a 15-day free trial so you can try them out. No questions asked, no credit card or anything. Cancel if you don't want to move forward, or you don't even have to cancel, right? You just ignore it and forget about it because no credit card needed, which is good. So entrepreneuradventure.com/snap for that. Show notes and everything else for this episode can be found at entrepreneuradventure.com/45. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this episode. All right. So today I have Ian Conachero on with us. He is the head of sales and customer success over at SellerSnap, which is the repricer that I have been using for all of my products on Amazon. It works fantastically. So Ian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Todd, for having me on. I'm really happy to be here and talk about Amazon repricing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to diving into that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Before we jumped on here, you mentioned that you are out in Israel.
Yeah, so I'm actually taking this from Tel Aviv. As you can see, doing the work from home thing for the time being during the pandemic. Generally, we sit in the office with our team, and so the majority of our operations are based out of Israel. We have some help from our U.S. office as well. And the background of SellerSnap goes back to, I believe, 2017. In order to help solve the problem of price wars and repricing. And so between coming up with a complex strategy and in the way that we work in an AI-based strategy in order to help get the buy box at the highest possible price, SellerSnap has really evolved into a solution for both automated repricing and an analytic solution for Amazon sellers.
Yeah, and before you guys, I was using BQool, so BQool, and their software is fine, but and I do pretty good on Amazon. I like to think of myself as one of the bigger sellers, but sellers even bigger than myself doing like $5, $10, $20 million a year turned me on to you guys, and I made the switch. Unfortunately, like right as the pandemic hit, so I couldn't get like a great A/B test.
Yeah.
But Just the different tools and stuff you guys have makes it better than Be Cool for me. But before we dive into all that stuff, we should probably dive into, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are maybe just getting started with Amazon and stuff like that and wondering why would they even need a repricer to sell on Amazon?
Right. And I think that is a really good question. And what it comes down to is why we need a repricer is to really understand, what is the buy box and why is it important? And we know that the buy box is important because I read a stat recently that something like 80% of all purchases go through the buy box. When I'm on Amazon, just because I work in this space, I will go and check all the different offers and make that decision. Maybe I'll wait a week and pay a little bit less. But especially when it comes to ordering Prime and when I need that one thing in my 2-day shipping, I'm going straight to the buy box and placing my order. And so because so many people purchase like that, it's important for third-party sellers to compete for that space, to be in the buy box at the time that the sellers want to, or that the buyers are ready to buy.
Yeah, for sure. And without a repricer, you're pretty much going to be spending the entire day in Seller Central, like updating your prices to try to stay in the buy box, right? Because those prices on a lot of products change by the minute.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point that, so many sellers out there, I would say the majority of them are using some kind of repricer, whether it is Amazon's, kind of built-in repricer that they make available through Seller Central, or one of the many third parties out there. Because everyone is using using some kind of technology to be updating their prices 24/7. If you are manually repricing, you might be able to handle it during the day, but it's really a full-time job, and you're not going to be able to consistently update hundreds or even thousands of listings all day, every day, 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, so it's okay if you don't know this, but do you know how many times Seller Snap is repricing, like every minute or every second or whatever? Do you have those figures?
How many items, are you asking how many SKUs that Seller Snap is repricing at any one time?
Yeah.
Ooh, I wish we would. I do have those figures available. I could look at them. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's in the millions of listings. Absolutely.
All right. Awesome.
Absolutely. I'll send that over to you.
Yeah, that'll be just a cool stat. It doesn't really mean anything necessarily, but just kind of an interesting stat for sure. But yeah, so Amazon's got its own repricer now, which, if people are just starting out, don't have much cash, they're trying to start a business, using something like Amazon's repricer would work fine. I'm always a little bit leery of using anything that Amazon puts out because Amazon's main interest is building their business and getting their customers the lowest prices. And my main interest is building my business and increasing my profits. So we're kind of at odds with each other a little bit. Hopefully they wouldn't take that into account, but you never know. But why would someone, as they're building their business, want to switch to something like Seller Snap rather than just keep using the free repricer that Amazon gives us?
So there's a lot of really good points there. And I think one of the first things I want to touch on is in terms of building a business, right? When you're just getting started, sometimes you got to take what you can get in terms of, and really take your cash flow into account and say, all right, I have a little bit of extra cash. Am I going to put it into more inventory or am I going to put it into software? And that's a business decision from the side of the sellers. But when we're talking about moving into a third-party repricer, moving into Seller Snap in particular, it's really important to make the differentiation between the different types of repricers out there. So most of the repricers out there, including the ones on Amazon, are what we would call a rule-based repricer. What that means is that the seller would have to go in and set up a series of complex rules. If A, then B. And so some common examples are, if I'm not in the buy box, undercut the buy box winner by a penny, to some extent of that. And so it is, yeah. And arguably, some people say, I need to do that so I can be in the buy box and sell, because if I'm not selling, I'm not making money. Who cares if it's a little bit less? And then on the other side, there's this idea of, well, I want to maximize the amount. I want to maximize my profit per sale. And so that's where Seller Snap comes into play. Because what we do is we take a cooperative approach to win the buy box. So we're not going in and saying, I need to win 100% of the buy box every single time. What we're saying is, I want to win my fair share of buy box. So if I have one other competitor, to make it simple, my fair share is 50%. And so going back to my original point about the difference between a rule-based repricer and Seller Snap, is with Seller Snap, you do not have to set up complex rules in order to get started. You really only need to set up your min and max and turn on the repricer and let it go. Yeah,
and you guys call it the AI repricer, right? That's just the default method that it goes to.
Correct. So if you were to, without making any changes to a listing, you'd be using our default AI method. Absolutely.
Okay. So what's the idea behind the AI repricer? What exactly is it looking for? Is it just aiming for like that percentage of the buy box, or what all is it doing?
That's a good question. So basically, it's a two-pronged approach, right? Because it's two ideas pulling in two separate directions. It's about getting the buy box, number one, so I can make that sale. And it's about getting a higher profit for each individual sale. In order to do one, you have to lower the price. And in order to do the other, you have to raise the price. And so what the AI is doing, it's really trying to understand the competitive landscape and understand the decisions that our competitors make based on the decisions that we make. And so, a quick example is that if I see my competitor is always undercutting me by a penny, and then I can assume that their rule is to undercut me by a penny, that means they're attached to my price. That means I can use that information and raise the price. And so if I raise the price to a certain point, they'll come with me. And then from there, then I can be a bit more aggressive, undercut them to capture my buy box share. And we'll start that mini price war, but then I can always reset. And so that means instead of, just capturing buy box all the way down to my min, I'm still taking that same process, but I'm doing it in a different range. I'm doing it at the higher price point.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a good example of that in work. So I have a product, and the person I'm competing against is selling it for $74.99. And it doesn't look like they use a repricer, because no matter what price I'm at, they just stay the same. And so like if I was using Amazon or Be Cool, it would match me at $74.99 to get that buy box, and we would split the sales. But what I've actually seen that Seller Snap has done is it didn't match $74.99, but it found out that I get just as good of a buy box percentage at $75.04. And so it keeps it at that. It's not a huge difference. It's like 5 cents, but you multiply that over maybe 300 products. And, just one example that I've noticed. I'm sure there's tons that I haven't noticed because I've got a bunch of products, but it's just kind of interesting where other repricers probably would have knocked me down to $74.99. You guys are keeping me at $75.04 or 5 and getting me the sale still at that price point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what Seller Snap is trying to do is it's going to keep asking itself the question, all right, do I have the buy box? If I have the buy box, can I keep that target percentage at a higher price? And so in this scenario, you said you were at $74.99, and it hit its target buy box share. It's going to say, all right, at $74.99, I'm getting the buy box. Great. What about at 75, 75.01, 02, 03, until it gets to, 75.06 and loses the buy box? then it's able to say, "Oh, I've gone too far. I've gone too far. Let's back up." And I kind of find that sweet spot.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I really liked about your software too that I found really helpful is I sell a lot of like 2, 3, 4, 5 packs of different products, right? And the problem I've always had in the past with using Be Cool was that I just had to basically compete on that buy box of that multi-pack. And so let's say the single price product is at $10. And so I want to maybe keep it under $19. So I'd have to set my max at like $19 or $18. But then if the single price went down to say $6 and I'm still at $19, now it doesn't make sense to buy my 2-pack, right? But normal repricers don't know anything about any other ASIN. But what I really liked about yours is I can actually set it to compete against a different ASIN. So I actually set it to compete against the single product and then multiply it to get the price for the 2, 3, 4-pack. But then I can also set it to say that, okay, if a FBA person comes on this listing with me, let's switch it to now compete against that FBA person so that I can, stay in competition with them. So that I found really useful for like multi-packs and things like that.
Yeah. In terms of what you're using, what we call that is follow related ASIN. And we have follow related ASIN, and we also have follow multiple related ASINs. It's a great use case. Exactly what you came up with is when I have a multi-pack, when I create my own bundles, and I am generally the only seller on a listing. And so that could go for bundle creation or even a private label product as well. It puts you in a position where, all right, I don't have someone to compete against in the buy box, but that doesn't mean I don't have competition. And so it allows you to stay in a competitive landscape. And to go off the first point you were talking about, when we're talking about 1-packs, 2-packs, and 3-packs, we also want to be really careful because Amazon does pay attention to that, and they try to discourage selling a 2-pack at a higher price than I could buy 2 1-packs for.
Yeah, especially right now with all the quote price gouging that Amazon claims is going on right now. And I was listening here to a conversation earlier, not to get off topic or anything, but they were talking about, by them having a floor, where with their fees and everything, a bottom price that you can sell something at. And then now they're coming from the top trying to stop, not price fixing, but price gouging. They're almost creating a circumstance where they're price fixing, right? They're like, your price has to be in this range to sell. Not anything to do with repricing, but it's just an interesting idea that I could see Amazon getting in trouble for that too.
I mean, Amazon, I'm sure Amazon has their own regulatory problems that they're working with both internally and externally. We see that when, Jeff Bezos goes to Congress or the EU subpoenas Amazon as well in terms of, fair practices. So it's a weird world where this almost self-governing entity that is Amazon is now seems like it might be more and more governed by the actual governments of the world.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. It's always just a matter of time as businesses get super big like Amazon. So it's going to be interesting to watch how it falls down and everything plays out here for sure. So let's see. So the other thing that I really like with your guys' software is just the dashboard where I can see my profit and the total number of sales, my profit margin, my ROI, and everything like that. A lot of people use something like Seller Board for that information, and I'm kind of getting that all right in your guys' software, which is really nice as well.
Yeah, I think that is a major value proposition for Amazon sellers, where you can start to use Seller Snap for more and more tasks in your day-to-day as an Amazon seller. And especially when it comes to repricing, information on your P&L is super important. And so I think it's really nice not to have to go to another third-party solution to see those numbers and then go back to SellerSnap to make any adjustments. You can kind of do it all in one place.
Yeah, for me, it's really nice because I can just log into the repricer, if I'm going to make a change or something anyways, and I can just see my numbers right there at the top, compare it to last week and everything, and actually see, if I made a change or something, see how that change took effect. So it's really nice, really helpful for me. What other things, I know there's a lot of other from that drop down on SellerSnap. What other ways can we do repricing that you guys recommend on SellerSnap?
There's a few different things you can do. The AI being our main repricing strategy, the majority of our sellers will use the AI at least out of the box for brand new listings to see how it works. And of course, with the millions of sellers out there and the millions of listings from those millions of sellers, there's no one size fits all, solution, repricing method for every single listing. So having the ability to customize your repricing strategy is super important. And I think that's what you're referring to. And so in addition to the AI, and we also spoke about, follow related ASIN as well, we have a large number of, rule-based methods. So just like the rule-based methods you would find in many of our other third-party competitors and within Amazon, we have things like follow lowest FBA, lowest FBM, follow buy box. And that's kind of a given. But the really cool aspect that I want to talk about is our win buy box strategy, number one, and number two, conditional repricing. And so the win buy box strategy basically allows the user to put their own target buy box strategy instead of letting the AI do it. And what the win buy box strategy will do is it'll become more and more aggressive in order to hit that target buy box share. So if the cooperative strategy of the AI is not aggressive enough for you, what you can do is you can always increase that and say, let's become more aggressive on this listing because I need to move more product, or even I need to liquidate product. So that's number one. Number two is the conditional repricing. And the reason why I really like this is because it allows me to use both the AI repricer and other repricing methods in certain scenarios. This does work kind of like a rule-based system. So it's almost a hybrid model. So one of the really common ones that I'll use with sellers, or I'll suggest to sellers, is I want to use the AI strategy unless I'm not getting a purchase. And so there's scenarios on lower velocity items where maybe you get a purchase in 12, 24, 48 hours. And what I can do is I can set a condition that says, if no purchase in 24 hours, let's move to a different strategy, such as win buy box. And so what will happen is that condition will stay on win buy box and keep competing for that higher buy box percentage until I make that sale. And then I'll move back to the AI strategy. And once I made that sale to, kind of reset and keep that price elevated.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just looking through the drop down here, and it's always nice. The AI is awesome because, like you said, a lot of times you can just set it and forget it. And one thing I've seen with a lot of new people who are trying to set up a repricer is they are having trouble trying to figure out the million different settings that some of these softwares have. So having that AI repricer is golden. But also having the fine-tuning things, like you mentioned, if you want to kind of dig a little bit deeper and make things change or a little bit differently. I'm just looking at the drop down here. You guys got like win buy box, like you mentioned, set to last purchase price, reoccurring price change, follow buy box, follow competitor, fixed price, set to max price, set to min, follow related ASINs, follow multiple, follow lowest multiple competitors, and so on and so on. lots of different options that we can do. And like you said, the conditional thing is awesome, right? You might not use a lot of these just by themselves, but if a certain condition is met, then you can switch between them, which is really nice to get advanced like that if you want to. Not really necessary though.
Right. And, I usually suggest that when we're starting out to use the AI repricer, because it takes the complication out of it, right? And because I've seen a ton of setups, and often how we'll describe it kind of internally is when you are making a list of complicated rules, it's pretty easy to, we call it kind of poking holes, or I call it poking holes. It's really easy to poke holes in the strategies, and where sellers kind of back themselves into a corner because they don't tell the repricer what to do in a specific scenario. So the AI repricer really helps take out that guesswork. And the last thing that I want to talk about is, I forgot to mention this because it is actually really new as of this week. So by the time this airs, it'll already have been out for a few weeks, is we've just launched and we're in kind of a beta stage of velocity-driven repricing. So it's just one more thing that SellerSnap is doing in order to provide more options and more scenarios for all of our sellers and all different kinds of sellers.
Okay, explain that one a little bit more. What exactly is that going to be doing if we set to that one?
What this does is you get to pick one of two strategies. You would either get to target, minimum orders or total orders in a given time period. And what it's going to do is it's going to try to raise and lower the price and kind of find that sweet spot so you can continually sell and hit that target number of orders in, let's say, a 30-day period. And this repricing method, it's really important to understand that this is for items that you generally have more velocity on. Because in terms of, and I'm not an economics expert, but by any means, but in terms of, price elasticity and understanding, like, does my price matter in between, a dollar here and there when I'm only moving, 3, 4, 5, 6 items a month? Probably not. So we're talking about more items that are a little bit more hot, and you're selling a higher volume in a given time period.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because, especially I could see if you were had an exclusive on a product or something, and so you're working with the brand obviously wants to sell more, you want to make more profit, but you could set it to say, I want to make sure I sell 500 of these a month at least, but otherwise make sure to try to maximize my profit. Am I understanding that right?
In a very simple term, right. It's about saying, I want to make sure that I sell 500 because I need to order 500 a month to keep my deal, for example. And then once I hit that target, I can start to afford to take a little bit, try to raise the price and see if I can't keep selling more at the higher price point and still have that maximization.
For sure. Yeah. I could definitely see the benefit of that. And it's always good to have the more options, right? Because everybody's going to be different. I've been working with you to do things that probably other people aren't necessarily doing, like with the API, for example, because I want to basically inject my costs right into your guys' software so my virtual assistants aren't having to manually enter that stuff all the time. And if something changes in my my software where I keep all the information on my inventory, it'll just push it over to SellerSnap. So that's one of the big reasons that I moved over to you guys as well, because you have the API, which for anybody who's not familiar with programming, that's like the programming interface connection between two softwares so that they can talk to each other and send data back and forth.
Right. And, I don't know if you watched it, I think it was last week or the week before. There was a kind of like a big webinar conference thing hosted by Amazon called Accelerate. And they had a lot of different people talking about different aspects of Amazon. And one of the things that I remember, and it was something like, it was hours of watching videos, so you're not gonna absorb everything. But one of the things that stuck with me is for Amazon sellers to develop these kinds of partnerships and to take on and to add, thoughtfully add SaaS solutions, software solutions to their software stack in order to automate processes and really find that competitive advantage over their other Amazon sellers. And so whether that is a repricing solution, an inventory management system, or even what you're doing about trying to make that connection to take that one extra step off out of your day, so you and your team can focus on other places to increase efficiency. Finding ways to make your life easier is one of the ultimate competitive advantages. That was my takeaway from what I was listening to last week.
Yeah, for sure. It's super important. And like another thing that I want to do with your guys' software, once my programmer really understands the API and we get everything working, is I want to create software to do it automatically for me. For example, let's say I'm looking at a product and for whatever reason, it hasn't gotten any sales in like a week. I want it to automatically lower the min price and lower the max price. So it just keeps coming down, and just keep dropping it maybe by a penny like every hour or 25 cents every hour until it starts getting sales. And so that inventory is not just sitting there, because we don't want to start collecting fees and stuff like that from storage and things like that. So that's another thing that I want to do. Right now, that's something that my virtual assistants, they go in and they got to manually, download all the listings and look at everything and make those changes. But doing that by the API and just having a program just doing that all the time would be so much easier and save a lot of time.
Absolutely. And that at the end of the day is the definition of, time is money. And what you're doing right now and setting it up and putting the extra resources into making the API connection and coming up with the strategy is an investment into the future of your Amazon business.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, as you grow, it's definitely all about finding those different automations that you can do and ways to decrease expenses and stuff like that, and just be more competitive, really, because it's like with the example that I just said, it's so hard. I'm at about 300 different products that I'm carrying, but there are people who are carrying, like you said, thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of different products. And it's just impossible to go through that one by one without some kind of computer program going through that stuff for you. So if I can develop that now at 300 products, when I get to 1,000, 3,000, it'll just be so much easier.
Yeah, and I think that the best piece of advice for this kind of process is to also develop the system, but also develop a way to kind of audit the decision-making processes that the strategy in your system that you're building now is going to put into place. Because things will change in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years. And so once you put that system in place, you want to put yourself in a position where, we're 2 quarters from now, I can look back and I can say, is this working for me? And just like everything else you said, if you don't do it now, it's just going to become a bigger and bigger task as you grow.
Yep, absolutely. Automation is huge. Like we talked about at the very beginning, why do you need a repricer? And it's really all about the automation, right? So you're not sitting in there repricing a product 50 times a day because your competition is. And if you're not keeping up with that, you're not going to be able to compete, unfortunately. And one thing I just thought of that would be awesome in the software, and maybe it is in there and I'm just not finding it. So we were talking about the packs, right? So competing against the 1-pack for the 2-pack. What would be really nice, and the one thing that I don't see is, so competing with the 1-pack, right? And then you do the conditional statement. If there's an FBA seller compete with the FBA seller, which is fine. But it'd be nice if there's one more step in there where if there's an FBA seller and they're lower priced, then compete with the FBA seller.
I do understand what you're saying, and I kind of, I'm just trying to think if there's a way that we can do that. Because so my thought is always that there are generally multiple roads to the same point. And so I think that what I'm hearing from you is saying that I only want to I only want to compete with that FBA seller if they're competing with me, if they're competing for the buy box. Because just saying if they're lower than me, I want to compete is one thing, but if they're in general competing for the buy box, that's the similar point, right? Because I still want to pay attention to that. And so we do have an option that says if FBA seller exists and is competing for buy box, it's a little tick box in there, then you can make that decision. And so basically what we're saying is, if I have that FBA competitor and they're at a fixed price and they don't matter right now, leave them alone. Stay with my default repricing method. But if they are actively competing with me, that's when I want to make sure I'm making decisions to stay relevant.
Yeah, no, for sure. That would definitely be helpful. So the only step on top of that, and we might be getting a little too into the weeds for the podcast, but that's all right. I think you can highlight. So let's say I'm on the 2-pack and the 1-pack is at $10. So I have the 2-pack at $18 and someone comes in the buy box and matches me at $18. So now it switches over to the AI repricer, right? Because we're competing. What if the AI repricer brings the buy box up to $20 or $22 because that's where I have my max price set at, and now the price of the 2-pack is higher than the 1-pack?
That's a pretty granular scenario.
Enough to switch back and say, hey, let's go back to competing against the ASIN because now that price is lower.
I would have to look at that, and I think we can take that specific scenario offline and look at the different setups together and see how it would react, because I'm also very visual, so it makes more sense for me to talk it out, write it down, look at the different sets, and decide what the best setup is. But you're right, there are always going to be situations when we have two different objectives, such as making sure that my 2-pack is always more competitive than my 1-pack per unit, and that my 1-pack is competitive against any other competitors that it has in the buy box. Those are two different objectives that we have to look at, and it can get rather complicated. But that is a great segue into SellerSnap's support team, that we're more than happy to help you out with that. And you probably noticed on the platform and that we have that help button, we have the knowledge base. And if you have a question like that, we're more than happy to dig into that, help you come up with a strategy that works for you based on the tools that we have. And our team is super responsive and super helpful in that way.
Yep, for sure. I've used you guys as support quite a bit. We've been working on the API and everything. You guys are definitely responsive. For me, that's one of the biggest things in software. Obviously, you guys have the AI repricer advantage, but the biggest thing for me for any software is the support that you receive when you're using the software, because that's just what separates everybody apart. I mean, you can get cheaper software for sure, but a lot of times you get what you pay for, especially in the support department, which gets cut real fast as the price goes down.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense in that manner, because there's a lot of things that come into it, and one of the things that makes a support team really strong is existing and having capable people who are there and who really want to help the customers in order to help them succeed. And that goes for software companies like us, like SellerSnap, but also for Amazon sellers when it comes down to reviews and customer input through Amazon.
Yep. Yeah, it's huge. I'm always surprised, like when I'm looking at different softwares and I go to a website and I'm looking, I have a certain question, so I send like a message to their chat or their support, and they'll like never get back to you sometimes, or it'll take days or something. It's like, you know, I haven't even started using you guys, and you can't get back to me. So how is it going to work once I'm an actual customer? You know?
Yeah. I mean, working in software, it's a tough solution, or it's a tough situation out there. You got to balance. There's a lot of there's a balancing act to that. But again, it's important that we put for SellerSnap that we put customers first, and we do everything we can to help solve the problem. Are we perfect in terms of being able to solve a problem every single time? No, that's part of being human. That's part of being limited by technology. But I think that also brings a different aspect in that we are aware of that, and we are aware that there are humans on the other side of our platform, our users, who put their trust in the platform and our team to do everything they can, or to do everything we can in order to help their Amazon business. And that's something that we can guarantee, is that we're always going to kind of put on for our customers.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. Always a benefit to have good support, for sure. So anything else that we are forgetting? Any tricks or tips or secrets that we should add in here?
In terms of repricing, and in terms of repricing, I think we covered everything. We need to look at the big picture and then go granular from there. So I know a lot of sellers will go in and then try to make complicated rules with the AI repricer, even though they're not quite sure what it's doing. My opinion is, let's always try out the AI repricer, see how it works, and then make our adjustments as we go. So that's number one. Don't try to do too much in the beginning. You want to take it step by step and do it in the right way, so we don't have to backtrack, erase everything we did, and then start from the beginning anyways. And then the second thing that we really want to get into is the data. There are, and I always lose track of this because we're adding it all the time, there are, probably 60 or 70, maybe even more different data points for each individual listing that sellers can dive into. And so my tip is to look at that column section, and we have hidden and visible columns. So look at that column section and look at those different data points that you might not even know that it matters to your business, and it might ring a bell that says, oh, this is something that I didn't even know I needed that is available to me. And use the filters to find where it affects your bottom line the most. And that's how you can really get the most out of your business. I know, as when I talk to sellers about repricing and using repricer, it's really easy for me to say, oh, let's look at all the winners. Let's look at all the places where SellerSnap killed it and was able to get, more profit per sale, more buy box share. That's the easy part. The hard part, and I think the most important part, is to say, let's find the areas for improvement. What wasn't going well, and what steps can I take in order to do better? And I think coming from just kind of taking a different perspective on that, and in terms of how I'm looking at data, is one of the best things I can do for my business, for an Amazon business.
Yeah, absolutely. Data is definitely king. That's for sure. You got to know how to manipulate the data and use it to your advantage. But having it, and like you said, there are a lot of information in here, from the percentage of time that you won the buy box, and your revenue, total profit, ROI, average win price, and things like that. So a lot of really great info. And one thing that I just noticed that I think is really important for us to touch on, because I think most reprices don't have it, is the ability to set a product as small and light, and then it calculates it on the correct fees for the small and light program. And
right.
I think that is killer, having that to be able to actually reprice on those right settings.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes, and it's both a repricing, we can look at it both from repricing and analytics. Because if I'm looking at if I'm calculating my profit based on a higher fee, my profit's going to come out smaller, and I don't have as good of an idea of my cash flow And that can be a problem in itself. And then from the repricing standpoint is that if I'm looking at all of those kind of, you call them post-sale costs, those variable Amazon fees, FBA fees, referral fees, things like that. If those are inflated as well, that means I would unintentionally inflate my min price, or I could unintentionally inflate my min price to keep that, minimum markup. And that would also make me a bit less competitive in certain situations. So it is definitely a really important thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, big time. And you guys have that in there. Like I said, I don't know if anybody else does. And for anybody that isn't familiar with Small and Light, it's a program in Amazon. So if you log into Seller Central, I think you go to Programs and then Seller Programs or something like that. But what it is for products under $7 and at a decent sales velocity, you can actually get cheaper fees, referral fees and everything for Amazon, so that you can keep the price of that product below $7 and still make a good profit on it. Typically, the shipping will be a little bit longer, like 3 to 4 days instead of the 1 to 2 days like Amazon promises. Although I found a lot of times that it still gets there within the 2 days anyways. But I do a lot of that. I've got quite a few products now in the Small and Light program. It works really well for me. And so that is awesome.
Yeah, and the Small and Light program is great for a lot of sellers. And the main thing is that you want to make sure you don't break that threshold, that upper threshold set by Amazon, because you will get automatically re-enrolled. And then if you drop below that price again, you have the chance of having those fees be at that higher rate. So that's also something that we want to take into account when setting our max prices for Small and Light products.
Yep, absolutely. Make sure it doesn't go above that $7 mark. It used to be, I think, $14, I believe, but then Amazon changed it down to $7.
Yeah, there's bound to be more change to that. And again, that's why utilizing SellerSnap in terms of staying up to date with your fees, because we pull those fees directly from Amazon. Anytime that a referral fee changes, we'll automatically update that on the listing level, and you'll be able to see how that affects your markup.
For sure. So here's another thing, and it may not be possible because I've never seen any repricer yet that is able to reprice the business buy box. Are you guys familiar with that? And is that something that's possible, or is that not even in the Amazon API possibility?
The business buy box is a bit complicated. Business pricing is something that actually, as of this week, it's available on the platform. Oh. We did what we call a soft launch. So we haven't told everybody about it. It is available to everybody. But if you go to your store settings and you go to the repricing tab, you'll be able to see that there is a toggle to turn on business pricing. And then what you can do from there is you will be able to set a quantity discount, or be able to set a business price discount, and then quantity discounts up to that. After that, up to 5 tiers, and from there, it will put you in a space where you can compete on business pricing.
Okay, nice. Yep, I just looked in there, and it is there for me, so I will have to play with that. What I've been doing for now, and for anybody who doesn't have that or isn't using SellerSnap, because like I said, most reprices don't have it, is I've just been using you guys to reprice the main buy box. And then in Amazon's repricer, I use Amazon's repricer to price the business buy box 1% lower than the normal buy box. And that's actually a really cool trick that I learned. I think it might have been from Scott Needham at BuyBoxer might have mentioned that. But really cool trick that helps you kind of steal the buy box for business customers and things. But being able to do it in your guys' software will be even better, because I'm sure you'll have a lot more options than what Amazon's repricer has.
Yeah, and it's going to work in a similar way, like you said. Reprice a percentage point below the actual listed price. So we are still going to be connected to that listed price as we go up and down. But yeah, that's generally going to be the way that it works. And give it a try out and let us know how it goes.
For sure. I will definitely do that. All right, Ian, I think we've covered pretty much everything here. I wanted to mention that you guys are giving our listeners 30% off their first month if they decide to sign up with you guys. And they can get that discount by going to entrepreneuradventure.com/snap, SNAP, and that will redirect them over to your guys' website and include that discount on there. So that's really awesome. Appreciate that. I think currently, as the recording of this, your guys' first price level is at $250. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the $250 is our accelerator program, and basically there is a very short application process where we are, really investing in growing Amazon sellers by giving them the premium repricing solution at a severely discounted rate. And it's a program that goes on for 6 months. So we guarantee that rate for 6 months in hopes and helping customers build up to be able to afford some of the other tiers, which are at $500 and $800 price points. And so you can read all about the accelerator program at sellersnap.io and check out our pricing page. And it will talk about all the ins and outs of the accelerator program, our standard package, and our premium tier as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I can hear some of the people out there like, $250, are you crazy? Be Cool's like $25, Amazon's free. And, regardless of everything we've already talked about why you guys are better, there's a reason that I found out from you guys, from sellers who are bigger than me, right? You use the tools that give you the competitive advantage, and that's what you guys are doing over a lot of the other repricers that are out there.
Right. If you can get that competitive advantage, and also if you can save some time, because all you have to do is set your mins and maxes and turn it on, you don't have to play with the repricing rules. You got to look at the different value points from the repricing standpoint, time saving standpoint, and also the additional insights that you can get from all the different data points that SellerSnap offers.
For sure. Yep. I agree 100%. So entrepreneuradventure.com/snap. You guys can get your 30% off your first month and check it out. And if you're already using a repricer, hopefully you can be in a better situation than I was when I made the switch of COVID hitting and then everything going haywire. You'll be able to get, a better A/B test and switch from your current pricer, test out SellerSnap for a month and just see the difference that it makes and see if it makes sense for you. I think it'll be a good way for people to go forward.
Absolutely. Come out. We do have the free 15-day trial. There's no credit card down, no commitment. And at the end of the day, it's all about trying out the different softwares and trying to figure out, what pieces to the puzzle you need to support your business.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Ian, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show, and I appreciate you guys making SellerSnap. I really like it a lot. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for your time as well, and being such a great customer. And this was really fun. I hope to do it again soon.
Absolutely. Have a great one, Ian. All right. So there you go. Thank you so much for making it this far in the episode. I hope you enjoyed all that great information, that great conversation we just had with Ian. A lot of good information there. I think hopefully you learned something. If you did, please like, share, and comment on this video. Give it a thumbs up if you're over there on YouTube, and hit that subscribe button down below to get more information and other great content just like this. Really be helpful. Show notes, entrepreneuradventure.com/45. And to get your 30% off your first month and that 15-day free trial, remember entrepreneuradventure.com/snap, SNAP, to check that out. And with that wraps up this episode. I'm your host, Todd Welch, signing out. Happy selling, everybody.
This has been another episode of the Entrepreneur Adventure Podcast. Thanks for listening, fellow entrepreneur. And always remember, success is yours if you take it.